The stars shone brightly over the Kennedy Space Center as the strange ship landed. It was unlike anything humans had ever built. Smooth, with no visible engines, it gleamed under the floodlights as government officials and military personnel stood in tense formation. This was the day humanity had both dreamed of and feared for centuries. Aliens had come to Earth. The ship's side opened, revealing tall, slender beings with blue-tinted skin. The leader stepped forward, raising four-fingered hands in what seemed like a peaceful gesture. "We represent the Galactic Council," the alien said, its voice translated through a device at its neck. "I am High Counselor Zextrol of the Arconian species. We have observed your world for some time." President Susan Clark stepped forward, her face calm despite her racing heart. "We welcome you to Earth. I am the elected leader of the United States, one of our planet's nations." 2 weeks later, John Miller sat in the Oval Office, still trying to process what was happening. At 53, with gray hair and kind eyes, he had spent his life in diplomatic service, resolving conflicts from the Middle East to Southeast Asia. Now, the president was asking him to represent all of humanity. "The council has invited us to send a representative," President Clark explained. "They've agreed to consider Earth for probationary membership. You're our best diplomat, John." Miller nodded slowly. "What do we know about them so far?" "They're a federation of 27 species. They've been managing interstellar relations for thousands of years. They control trade routes, settle disputes between worlds, and apparently decide which new species get to join their club." Miller studied the photographs of the various alien representatives who had arrived. Besides the Arconians, there were the insect-like Vorn, the gaseous Nuldari contained in special suits, and others too strange to easily describe. "Do we trust them?" Miller asked simply. The president sighed. "We don't have much choice. Their technology is centuries beyond ours. But this is also the greatest opportunity in human history." Within a month, the United Earth Diplomatic Corps was formed. Miller was named ambassador, with a team including Lieutenant Kate Rodriguez for security, Dr. Paul Jackson to study alien biology, and Lisa Green, a linguistic genius who had already mastered the basics of 3 alien languages. "Your mission is to secure our place in the galactic community," the president told them at the final briefing. "Learn what you can. Make friends if possible. But remember, you represent all of Earth now." The night before departure, Miller couldn't sleep. He stood at his window, looking up at the stars that no longer seemed so distant. His wife Beth joined him, wrapping her arms around his waist. "You'll do fine," she said. "You always do." "This is different," Miller replied. "One mistake could affect the future of our entire species." "Then don't make mistakes," she said with a small smile. "Just be the good man I married." The next day, Miller and his team boarded the UES Harmony, Earth's newest ship built with some guidance from Council engineers. It was humanity's pride, though Miller noticed the barely hidden amusement of the alien observers as they inspected it. As the ship lifted off, Miller watched Earth grow smaller below them. The blue planet, wrapped in swirling clouds, had never seemed so precious. "Ambassador, we're ready to make the jump," the captain announced. The Arconian guide, Trelvox, explained, "The jump drive will take us near Centraxis, the Council's meeting place. The journey that would take your species generations will be complete in 3 days." Miller nodded, his face showing none of his inner turmoil. As light bent around the ship and the stars blurred, he thought about what might await them. Peace, trade, knowledge, or something else entirely. What Miller didn't see was the private message Trelvox sent ahead. Humans proceeding as planned, more adaptable than expected, potentially useful, but potentially dangerous, proceeding with caution as directed. In the darkness of space, the Harmony disappeared into the jump point, carrying Earth's hopes with it. No one aboard realized they were heading into a trap centuries in the making. The UES Harmony slowed as it exited the jump point. Through the main viewport, Miller and his team got their first look at Centraxis. The space station was massive, a spinning wheel of metal and light that dwarfed anything humans had ever built. Hundreds of ships moved around it like fish in a pond. "It's beautiful," Lisa Green said, her eyes wide. The communications specialist had learned 7 Earth languages before age 30. Now she was working on her 4th alien tongue. "And heavily armed," added Lieutenant Kate Rodriguez. The security chief pointed to what looked like weapon ports along the station's outer ring. Her hand rested near her sidearm, a habit from 15 years in the Marines. Dr. Paul Jackson was busy taking readings with his devices. "The energy output is incredible. Their technology must be at least 3 centuries beyond ours." Miller kept his thoughts to himself. After 3 days in space, he had learned to wear what his team called his diplomat face. Calm, interested, but giving nothing away. The Harmony docked at an outer bay. A delegation of 6 different alien species waited for them. Miller recognized Zextral's blue-skinned Arconian form at the center. "Ambassador Miller, welcome to Centraxis," Zextral said. "Your quarters have been prepared in the diplomatic sector." The humans were led through wide corridors filled with beings of all shapes and sizes. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange that Miller couldn't tell which end was their front. Their living area was comfortable but plain. Rodriguez checked it immediately for surveillance devices. "They're watching us," she said quietly, pointing to nearly invisible sensors in the walls. "At least 7 different types." Miller nodded. "I expected that. We're the new kids in school. Of course they want to keep an eye on us." Over the next weeks, Miller attended countless meetings. He presented Earth's case for membership, showing videos of human art, science, and culture. He answered endless questions about Earth history, often the same ones asked by different council members. "They seem very interested in our wars," Miller told his team one night in their quarters. Green nodded. 3 different species asked me about nuclear weapons today. They seemed worried. "I've noticed something in their medical database," Jackson added. "They classify species by aggression levels. Humans are listed as highly aggressive, territorial, pack-bonding omnivores. That's the same category as some species they've apparently restricted to their home planets." Miller frowned. "We need to learn more about how they treat other new species." Using the limited access they'd been granted, the team began digging deeper into council records. Green's language skills and Jackson's scientific knowledge helped them find information not meant for human eyes. Late one night, Miller found a disturbing pattern. "Look at this," he told Rodriguez, showing her his datapad. "Every species that developed faster than average has been guided into a restricted membership. They get technology but lose independence." Rodriguez studied the information. "And those who resist." Miller's face was grim. Their records show at least 3 civilizations that were contained after refusing council terms. I think that means they were attacked. The next day, Miller was called to meet privately with Zextral. The Arconian's large eyes studied him carefully. "Your species advances quickly, Ambassador. Some council members find this concerning." "We're eager to learn," Miller replied carefully. "Yes, but some question whether humans understand their proper place. The Council has maintained peace for millennia by ensuring all species develop appropriately." Miller chose his next words with care. "Earth respects the Council's experience, but we hope to be treated as equals." Zextral's skin changed color slightly. "Equality must be earned, Ambassador. Some feel humans need more guidance." After the meeting, Miller hurried back to his team. "We have a problem," he said. "I think they expect us to accept a junior status with heavy restrictions." "What do we do?" Green asked. Miller looked out the viewport at the endless stars. "We keep gathering information, and we prepare for things to get difficult. I don't think they're going to welcome us with open arms." In his private chamber, Zextral was having a very different conversation. "The humans are becoming too curious," he told the shadowy figures on his screen. "Their ambassador is investigating restricted files. Is containment necessary? a voice asked. Not yet, Zextrol replied. But prepare the Diplomat's Pyre protocol. We may need to make an example soon. 3 months passed on Centraxis. Miller had learned to navigate the complex politics of the Galactic Council. Some alien species seemed friendly, like the plant-based Florians, who openly traded agriculture techniques. Others, like the silicon-based Krontar, barely acknowledged humans existed. Miller sat in his office, reviewing his notes for tomorrow's big speech. After months of meetings, the full council had agreed to hear Earth's formal request for membership. Lisa Green entered, carrying data tablets. I finished translating those files from the restricted archive, she said quietly. Miller looked up. What did you find? Green's face was pale. It's worse than we thought. The Council doesn't just guide new species, they actively suppress them. Any civilization that develops too quickly gets invaded, with their leaders replaced by Council puppets. She handed him the tablet. They call it necessary stabilization. They've done it 17 times in the last century alone. Miller scrolled through the evidence. Pictures showed alien worlds before and after stabilization. Thriving cities reduced to simple farming communities, advanced technology confiscated, whole populations forced to live under strict council rules. And there's more, Green added. They take resources from these worlds. Minerals, gases, biological materials. The council worlds stay rich by keeping others poor. Miller's hand tightened on the tablet. We need to include this in tomorrow's speech. The whole system needs reform. Later that day, Rodriguez entered Miller's office without knocking. Security patrols have doubled outside our quarters, she said, and I spotted 3 Vorn soldiers checking our ship. Something's happening. Miller nodded. Be ready to leave quickly if needed. Tell Jackson and Green the same. That night, Miller couldn't sleep. He thought about Earth, about his wife Beth, about the future of humanity among the stars. He had to make the council understand that humans wouldn't accept second-class status. Morning came quickly. Miller dressed in his formal Earth uniform. The blue suit with gold trim represented all nations of Earth. His team gathered in their common room. Whatever happens today, you've all done Earth proud, Miller told them. The walk to the Great Chamber felt longer than usual. The massive hall could hold representatives from all 27 council species. A raised platform stood in the center, where speakers would address the gathered delegates. Miller was announced with formal ceremony. He climbed the steps to the platform as thousands of alien eyes watched. Zextrol sat in the front row, his blue skin almost purple under the lights. Distinguished members of the Galactic Council, Miller began. I come before you today representing Earth and all humanity. His speech started as planned, highlighting human achievements and desire for peaceful cooperation. Then he shifted to what Green had discovered. However, we have concerns about Council policies toward developing worlds. Earth cannot join a system that oppresses new civilizations instead of helping them grow. A murmur spread through the chamber. Zextrol's eyes narrowed. Miller continued, his voice growing stronger. We have found evidence of resource exploitation, of forced technological regression, of 17 worlds whose progress was deliberately halted. Now the chamber erupted in shouts. Some alien delegates looked shocked, others angry. Humans wish to join a fair galactic community, Miller said over the noise. One where all species can reach their potential. We propose reforms that would. Zextrol stood suddenly. Enough. The Arconian's voice boomed through the chamber, silencing all others. The human shows the very reason their kind cannot be trusted. They have accessed restricted information. They question traditions that maintain peace. Miller tried to continue but found his voice silencer turned off. Zextrol turned to the other council members. This human demonstrates why their species is too dangerous. They spread discord after only 3 months here. Imagine what damage they could do as members. Ambassador Miller, Zextrol said, turning to face him. You have violated council trust. You threaten galactic stability. For this, there is an ancient punishment. Miller suddenly found he couldn't move. Energy fields held him in place on the platform. I invoked the Diplomat's Pyre Protocol, Zextrol announced formally. From her position near the chamber entrance, Rodriguez shouted, "Miller." She drew her weapon but was too far away. Miller felt heat building around him as golden energy surrounded his body. He looked directly at Zextrol, refusing to show fear. "Earth will not forget this," he said, his last words broadcast to every corner of Council space. Then flames consumed him, burning so hot his body turned to ash in seconds. From the doorway, Rodriguez grabbed Green and Jackson. "Run," she ordered. "Get to the ship. Now." Rodriguez pushed Green and Jackson through the crowded hallways of Syntraxis. Alarms blared overhead. The station's security forces were already moving to block exits. "We won't make it to the docking bay," Jackson said, breathing hard as they ran. "Yes, we will," Rodriguez replied. She pulled them into a side corridor, then through a maintenance door. During their months on the station, she had mapped every possible escape route. She knew ways through the station that even some residents didn't know about. Behind them, they could hear shouts in alien languages. Council security forces were hunting them. "They killed him," Green said, her voice shaking. "They just burned him alive. And they'll kill us too if we don't move," Rodriguez said. "Miller's last order was for us to get home, to warn Earth." They reached a service tunnel that led toward the docking bays. As they crawled through, Jackson pulled out a small device. "What's that?" Green asked. "Insurance," Jackson replied. "I've been collecting data on their technology. This might be our only chance to bring it home." Reaching the docking bay, they saw the UES Harmony surrounded by armed guards, the insect-like Vorn soldiers with their 4 arms each holding weapons. "Now what?" Green whispered. Rodriguez pointed to a nearby control panel. "Jackson, can you trigger a dock evacuation alert?" The scientist nodded and got to work. Moments later, alarms screamed in a different pattern. The docking bay's emergency systems announced a radiation leak. The Vorn guards hesitated, then followed their training and moved toward the emergency shelters. Now, Rodriguez led them in a sprint to the Harmony. They barely made it inside before more guards appeared at the far end of the bay. Green rushed to the communication station while Rodriguez took the pilot's seat. The engines hummed to life. "Syntraxis Control is ordering us to power down," Green reported. "Ignore them," Rodriguez said. She hadn't spent 15 years in space without learning how to fly. The Harmony broke free from its docking clamps with a screech of metal. The ship accelerated away from the station as the first energy blasts struck their shields. Rodriguez pushed the engines harder, aiming for the jump point that would take them toward Earth. "Incoming ships," Jackson warned, watching the sensors. 3. No, 5 Council vessels moving to intercept. Rodriguez's face was grim as she pushed the ship to its limits. "We only need to reach the jump point." The Harmony shuddered as weapons fire scored hits against their weakening shields. But Rodriguez's flying was too unpredictable for the Council ships to get a solid lock. With a final burst of speed, they reached the jump point and disappeared into faster-than-light travel. 3 days later, the damaged Harmony limped into Earth orbit. News of their arrival spread quickly. When they landed at Kennedy Space Center, President Clark herself was waiting. The presidential bunker beneath the White House was filled with military and government leaders. Rodriguez, Green, and Jackson sat at a long table, still wearing the same clothes they had escaped in. "Play it again," President Clark said. On the large screen, they watched the recording Green had managed to save. Miller standing proud before the Council. The shock as Zextrol ordered his execution. The golden fire that consumed him. His final words, "Earth will not forget this." The room was silent when the recording ended. "They planned this," Jackson said. "The evidence we found suggests they've been eliminating potential rivals for thousands of years." Green added, "Their records show they've done this before. Any species that questions them gets punished." And now they'll be coming for Earth. Rodriguez finished. They can't let us tell others what they've done. President Clark looked around the room at the grim faces of Earth's leaders. Options. Admiral Frank Daniels, head of Earth's combined space forces, spoke up. We have 57 combat-ready ships. The Council has thousands. In a direct fight, we don't stand a chance. Then we don't fight directly, Clark said. Not yet. She stood, her decision made. As of this moment, Earth is at war with the Galactic Council. Admiral Daniels will coordinate our defense. We need to prepare for their attack while finding ways to strike back. She looked at the final image of Miller, frozen on the screen. They thought killing our ambassador would frighten us into submission. Instead, they've united all of humanity against them. Rodriguez spoke up. Miller discovered they've been keeping advanced technology from us. If we could get our hands on some of it. Do it, Clark ordered. We'll use everything we have. If they want a war, we'll give them one they'll never forget. Outside, the news was spreading across Earth. Humanity now knew they weren't alone in the universe, and that the universe was a much more dangerous place than they had imagined. 1 month after Miller's death, Earth was preparing for war. Factories that once made cars now built weapons. Scientists worked day and night studying the alien technology Jackson had stolen. Soldiers trained for battles in space. President Clark sat with her advisors in the war room. Maps of nearby star systems covered the walls. Admiral Daniels pointed to a small cluster of stars. We've detected Council ships here, and here, he said. They're gathering for something big. How long do we have? Clark asked. 2 months, maybe less, Daniels replied. But we've made progress. The new shields based on the Harmony's data are being installed on all our ships. Vice Ambassador Eric Sanders cleared his throat. He had been Miller's assistant before the mission to Centraxis. Madam President, we should try one more diplomatic approach, he said. Not all Council species supported Miller's execution. Some might help us. Clark considered this. What do you suggest? Let me take a single ship to Centraxis. I'll deliver our terms, acknowledge their crime, surrender those responsible, and reform their policies. It's too dangerous, Rodriguez objected. Now a commander, she led Earth's new special forces. We need time, Sanders argued. Even a failed peace mission buys us weeks to prepare. After debate, Clark approved the mission. Sanders would take Earth's smallest diplomatic vessel to deliver humanity's message. Meanwhile, Special Agent Nathan White was hunting for alien spies on Earth. In his office at the FBI, he studied reports of strange sightings and unusual communications. There's a pattern here, he told his team. Someone is sending signals to the Council. They knew too much about our defenses when they attacked the Harmony. White's investigation led him to a research lab in Nevada. At night, he and his agents surrounded the building. Inside, they found Dr. Alan Peterson, a respected scientist. Why? White asked as they arrested him. Why betray your own species? Peterson smiled coldly. The Council offered me knowledge beyond human understanding. They are the future. Humanity must accept its place or be destroyed. White discovered Peterson had given the Council detailed information about Earth's defenses and technology. The betrayal went deep. In space, Sanders approached. The Council fleet appeared at the edge of the solar system 6 weeks later. 200 ships emerged from jump points near Neptune, their weapons ready. Their commander, Admiral Krez of the Vorn species, sent a simple message to Earth: surrender or be destroyed. In response, Earth sent silence. Krez ordered his fleet forward. His 4 arms worked the controls of his flagship as he studied the human defenses on his screens. He saw only 57 small Earth ships gathered near Mars. The humans had no orbital weapons platforms, no minefields, no defensive line at the outer planets. Pathetic, he said to his officers. They have done nothing to prepare. This will be easier than we thought. As the Council fleet passed Saturn, Admiral Daniels watched from his command ship, the UES Vengeance. The newly built vessel was Earth's most powerful warship, though it looked small compared to the Council ships. "All ships maintain position," Daniels ordered. "Wait for my signal." The Council fleet moved closer, their formation tight and disciplined. Admiral Krez was confident. His scans showed nothing dangerous ahead. The humans were clearly helpless. What his scans didn't show were the thousands of small objects hidden in Saturn's rings, objects that Dr. Jackson had created based on the stolen alien technology, objects that waited for Daniel's signal. "Now," Daniel said simply. Throughout Saturn's rings, the hidden devices activated. Each created a gravity well, a point of intense gravitational force. The science was based on how Council jump drives worked, but modified to be a weapon. Suddenly, the Council ships found themselves pulled in different directions by artificial gravity fields. Ships crashed into each other. Their engines struggled against forces they weren't designed to resist. "What is happening?" Krez shouted as his flagship shook violently. Before the Council fleet could recover, the Earth ships attacked. They were outnumbered, but they had surprise on their side. The Vengeance led the charge, its new weapons cutting through the confused Council ships. 20 Council vessels were destroyed in the first minutes. 30 more were damaged. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council was losing a battle. "Full retreat," Krez ordered. "Back to the jump point." But the gravity weapons continued to disrupt their movements. More ships were lost trying to escape than in the initial attack. By the time the surviving Council ships reached safety, Admiral Krez had lost nearly half his fleet. Earth had won its first victory. People around the world celebrated when they heard the news. Videos of the Battle of Saturn were watched billions of times. Humans who had been afraid now felt hope. But the celebration didn't last long. The Council struck back quickly. A smaller fleet bypassed Earth's defenses and attacked the human colony on the moon. Thousands of civilians died before Earth forces could respond. In her office, President Clark watched footage of the lunar city burning. Her face showed no emotion, but her hands gripped her desk tightly. "We knew they would hit back," Admiral Daniels said, "but we've proven they can be beaten." "At what cost?" Clark asked. "Those were families on the moon. Children. Which is why we must continue the fight," Daniels replied. "The Council won't stop. If we surrender, they'll control Earth forever." Meanwhile, Dr. Jackson was making another discovery. He had been studying Arconian biology, trying to understand their weaknesses. "Their neural systems are sensitive to certain frequencies," he explained to Commander Rodriguez. "A properly tuned energy pulse could incapacitate them without harming humans." Rodriguez nodded. "That could be useful for my next mission. We're planning a raid on Zextrel's homeworld. My team will infiltrate their defense ministry, steal their battle plans." Across the galaxy, news of the human victory was spreading. On planets controlled by the Council, people whispered about the species that had dared to fight back. Some began to question rules they had followed for generations. On a mining colony in the Proxima system, a worker named Kella listened to smuggled reports of the Battle of Saturn. Kalla's people had been conquered by the Council 2 centuries ago. "If humans can fight them, why can't we?" she asked others in their secret meeting place. "Because we don't have weapons," one replied. Kella smiled. "Not yet, but I know someone who might help us get some." Back on the Vengeance, Admiral Daniels reviewed plans for the next battle. The Council would return with a larger force next time. "We'll be ready," he said to his officers. Saturn was just the beginning. In his private cabin later, Daniels looked at a picture of Ambassador Miller. It had become a symbol for human forces, a reminder of why they fought. "We've taken the first step, John," Daniels said to the image. "They thought we'd be easy to conquer. They were wrong." 6 months after the Battle of Saturn, the war had spread across multiple star systems. Earth forces were no longer just defending their home. They were striking at Council targets throughout nearby space. President Clark stood before a crowd of soldiers at the new Earth Fleet headquarters. The building had been built underground to protect it from orbital attacks. "This is not the war we wanted," she told them. "But it is the war we will win. Not just for Earth, but for all species oppressed by the Council." Earth's strategy had changed. Rather than fighting large battles, human ships would appear suddenly near Council outposts, attack, and disappear before reinforcements arrived. The new FTL drives based on stolen technology made this possible. In her office aboard the space station Freedom, Commander Rodriguez prepared for her most important mission yet. Her team had successfully raided 3 Council facilities, gathering intelligence and sabotaging their operations. Now they aimed for a bigger target. "Our objective is Zextral's homeworld," she told her team of 12 elite soldiers. "We'll infiltrate their central defense complex and extract their battle plans for the upcoming offensive." The team's ship was small and fast, painted black to avoid detection. They used a captured Council identification code to approach the Arconian planet. "Remember," Rodriguez said as they prepared to land, "use Dr. Jackson's neural disruptors. They'll incapacitate the Arconians without killing them." The mission was dangerous, but Rodriguez's team moved like shadows through the alien city. The neural disruptors worked perfectly, allowing them to enter the defense complex undetected. Inside, Rodriguez found more than battle plans. She discovered files showing that several Council species secretly oppose Zextral's war. Some were even providing hidden support to Earth. "This changes everything," she told her team as they escaped with the stolen data. "The Council isn't as united as they want us to believe." Meanwhile, Special Agent White had made contact with an underground movement of subjugated species. They called themselves the Free Worlds Coalition. White met their representative, Kala, in a secret location on Mars. Her skin was green and scaled, but her eyes showed the same determination he saw in human fighters. "My people have been under Council control for 2 centuries, Kala explained. "We mine resources that the Council takes. We live in poverty while they grow rich." "How many worlds are part of your coalition?" White asked. 17 so far, Kala replied. "But more join each day. Your victory at Saturn gave many the courage to resist." White saw an opportunity. "We can help each other. Earth can provide weapons and training. Your people can provide intelligence about Council movements." On the battlefront, Admiral Daniels led a daring attack that liberated a small mining planet called Verix. The local population welcomed the humans as heroes. It was the first planet freed from Council control in generations. "This is now a safe world," Daniels told the cheering aliens. "The Council will not return while Earth stands guard." Earth ships helped the people of Verix rebuild their defenses. In return, many Verixians volunteered to fight alongside humans. Soon, 2 more nearby worlds were liberated. Dr. Jackson worked with scientists from these freed planets, combining their knowledge to develop new weapons against the Council. The alliance of species grew stronger each day. In the war room, President Clark studied the galactic map with her advisors. The areas marked as liberated or in revolt were growing. "The Council thought killing Ambassador Miller would frighten us," she said. Instead, it lit a fire that's spreading across the galaxy. Rodriguez entered, fresh from her successful mission. "Zextral is planning a major attack on Earth," she reported. 300 ships, their largest fleet ever. "Good," Clark replied, surprising everyone. "Let them come. We'll be ready." Outside the war room stood the memorial to Ambassador John Miller. His last words had become the motto of both human forces and their alien allies. Earth will not forget this. But the meaning had changed. It was no longer just about remembering a crime. It was a promise that humans would not stop until the Council was reformed or defeated. Admiral Daniels joined Clark at the window overlooking the fighter bays below. Ships from 5 different species now trained together, preparing for the coming battle. "Miller would be proud," Daniels said. "He wanted a fair galactic community. We're building it, 1 world at a time." Clark nodded. "This war may last years. The Council still has more ships, more resources, but they don't understand what they created when they killed our diplomat." "What's that?" Daniels asked. A common cause, Clark replied. Not just for humans, but for every species that wants freedom. And that, Admiral, is how we'll win this war. As Earth prepared for the Council's attack, the memorial light for Ambassador Miller burned bright, a symbol of humanity's promise to build a better galaxy, no matter how long the fight might take.